What's up, you guys, and welcome to a new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly podcast. I am very excited to be here because I have a lot of things to catch you guys up on, a lot of exciting news, and a lot of great questions from you all. And y'all, I'm trying something new today. So I actually have my camera set up, the camera on my computer set up, and I am recording this podcast not just through audio, but also through video. And I'm going to toss it up on YouTube. Well, I say I'm going to toss it up on YouTube, but we'll see how it looks at the end. And if I feel like it's okay enough, because we all know my little antics. I kind of sit here. I'm very active with my hands. So I thought it would be fun to do a little bit behind the scenes. And if you guys like the video option of the podcast, let me know and I will continue to do it. So this is just a fun little experiment to see how things go. But in today's episode, like I said, I have to catch you guys up on a couple of fun things. I have an interesting article that was sent to me that I want to break down because while there are some really good parts, it's basically how to know if you're not eating enough carbohydrates. There are a lot of stupid parts, basically propaganda to make you read it. And I thought that there were some important things that we should break down. So we're going to go through that together. Then I want to share with you guys the biggest mistakes that I made as a personal trainer when I was first getting started. And then I also received the question of when I go on vacation, do I personally work out? And I think that came because I posted up a vacay workout last week on YouTube, which y'all, I think I shared it on the Friday's episode. I'm not quite sure, but getting that episode done was a nightmare. But it did get done, so go check that out. And then I actually go on vacation next week. I haven't been on vacation, oh my goodness, since 2020. Dan and I went to the Outer Banks for a couple of days. That was our last vacay getaway. So this vacation, unfortunately, will not be with my husband. It is something that my mom and I do almost annually. The last few years have been a little bit messed up because of everything. But we are going to Amelia Island, Florida, my favorite place ever. She actually goes there for a work retreat for a couple of days, and I tag along and get to hang out at the Ritz-Carlton, which is where we get to stay, and go to Fernandina Beach and Amelia Island and just hang out and chill. So I'm really excited to having a mother-daughter weekend, and that is just a week and a half away. So much family stuff going on because my sister-in-law recently moved here too, so I get to take her out this coming weekend and introduce her to all my girlfriends. We're going to have a dinner night together, so lots of good stuff. So I'm going to answer the question of when I go on vacation, do I plan on working out? And if so, what do my workouts look like? Do they differ compared to what I do now? All the fun stuff, all the juicy fitness gossip. I also received the question, what do I do to take care of my hands? And if you're watching this on video, you're probably already rolling your eyes. And yeah, you'll roll your eyes when I explain it. I want to talk about the importance of assessment workouts and then playing the comparison game, which I think is important for us as women. And then finally, going off of that, I want to talk about social media and a message that I received that really hit me hard. And so I want to clarify things in terms of social media and the life that we portray and the realness of it. And I feel like I've always been extremely real and open on this podcast, and I'm definitely going to keep that going and be very vulnerable when we get to that part. Well, I feel like I'm always vulnerable from start to finish. But first, let's roll up to the top, and that is talking about this article on carbohydrates. And the topic is, or the title I should say, is 4 physical signs that you need to eat more carbs from brain fog to exercise flu. Now, here's the thing that I like about the article. Yes, it is absolutely true that you need carbohydrates in your diet. I feel like we are finally, most of us are getting away from this whole idea of the keto diet, where there are people that need to be on the keto diet and that really thrive off of it. However, if you are super active and you are lifting weights and you're living a very active lifestyle, then we need carbohydrates in our diet. You need that as a fast source of energy to propel your body. So some of the things that they were talking about in this was, number 1, lack of energy. Yes, of course, if you are going through the day and you are exhausted by 2 p.m., maybe it's not have anything to do with your sleep. It has to do with your nutrition. Are you following a balanced nutrition plan? Second, brain fog, which yes and no. If you have brain fog, it could absolutely be a sign of low carbohydrates. But often too, it's low carbs mixed with a high fat initially. And then they always say that as your body adapts to that, that brain fog goes away. So it could just be on a day where maybe just that day you weren't eating enough carbohydrates, but definitely something to consider. Less energy for your workouts. Duh, of course, right? And the fourth one was difficulty recovering from your workouts. I always tell people, I think we talked about this last week, it's not just about eating quote unquote healthy foods or hitting a certain amount of calories per day. It's about giving your body the good nutrients that it needs to recover from the high intensity workouts that you are most likely doing, or the high volume of workouts if you are doing a more weightlifting style of training, like a bodybuilding style of training. Your body needs carbohydrates because those sources of carbohydrates are being used up during the workout. So you have to replenish them. Okay, so that's the good stuff about the article. What I didn't like about this is, number one, the image of the headline image is a big bowl of, it looks like fettuccine Alfredo. When we consider carbohydrates, I know the first place to go is towards pasta. But when we are talking about balanced nutrition and fueling our body with the best sources of carbohydrates, I don't think that the nutritionists that put this article together really wanted Insider.com to use a big bowl of fettuccine Alfredo, right? We all know that that is not the healthiest of choices for us and that that's not what you should be doing. However, when people first see this article that aren't educated so much in nutrition, which is a lot of people, right? Nutrition isn't something that we learn in grade school. That is something that you have to take on upon yourself to be like, this is what I want to learn about. So if you don't take it upon yourself to learn nutrition, and then you read an article that talks about how you should be eating more carbs, and then there's a big old picture of pasta Alfredo sitting in front of you, then of course your brain goes, oh, this justifies that I should be going to Olive Garden, or that I should be eating a big bowl of pasta, or whatever the case may be, when that is not what they're going for, right? Think about all the fat, all the calories. A big bowl of pasta can have over 1,000 calories. So those aren't the healthy choices. Instead, you want to be going more for the all-natural carbohydrates on a daily basis. I'm talking, well, first off, like sourdough bread. And pasta isn't bad, but you shouldn't be eating a bowl of it. A thing of pasta should take up about a fourth to a third of your plate, and then covered mostly with fruits and veggies. And in the article, it does say that most people should be getting a majority of their carbohydrates from fresh fruits and vegetables. But that's not what the image, and that's not what and let's face it, when we're looking at an article, our eyes go directly to the images that we see, right? And so that's where we're taking in a lot of data. So I just want you to think about that moving forward. And it's really interesting when you start to see articles that resonate with you, and then you start nitpicking them a little bit, and then you realize like, this is definitely trying to string me in one way versus the other way, right? Or going towards a different crowd of people. So while I like the overall idea of the article to bring awareness to eating healthy carbs, that's not the image that is truly being displayed by the article. The other thing that I did not like is that it said that your diet should be around 75% of carbohydrates, or that your plate should be made up of 75% carbohydrates. No, your total diet should be, it's going to vary based on person to person, based on what is your lifestyle, what are your goals, what are your activity levels, those sort of things. But in general, carbohydrates should make up about 40% of your overall nutritional intake, right? Not freaking 75%. That's where people get this idea that they should eat a plate full of pasta or a plate full of pizza, because you look at it and you go, well, it's filling up 75% of my plate. It's just these bad ways of getting information out that mess people up. And so it's like, no wonder people have a hard time understanding nutrition when big names like this, which is Insider.com, is trying to promote something healthy, but putting a really negative spin on things and throwing things in there to definitely push it towards one way. I mean, it's basically a documentary in a 500-word article, right? So just something to be on the lookout for. Yes, carbohydrates are super, super important, but make sure, just like everything else, you're getting them from the right sources. Cake is a carbohydrate. Does that mean that you should eat 75% of your plate as cake? No, but getting it from starchy vegetables like potatoes or different types of squashes, from fruit. Fruit is a carbohydrate. Watermelon, berries, apples, whatever the case may be, those are the places that you want to turn to get that great energy source that carbs have to offer. Does that make sense? Cool. And if you're interested in reading this article, I will most definitely link it down below, because overall it is a good article. I just don't like how the editors, because I don't think it was the people that actually wrote it, the editors spun it to look a certain way. All right, next up, someone asked me, what are the mistakes that I made as a personal trainer when I was first getting started? And I'm sure there are many, many, many of them. One of the biggest mistakes that I'm still recovering from 15 years later is underpricing myself. And that's something that I still do to this day, because I always want to be where it's like, well, I want everybody to be able to join in on the fun. I don't want price to be an issue. But at the end of the day, you have to know your worth, and you have to be okay with that and be proud of how much you are worth, right? So my number one mistake was underpricing myself in my younger years. And like I said, I'm just now coming out of that, but for some people, that's a shock when they did personal training with me years ago, and then they come back and they're like, hey, are you still doing one-on-one? And I'm sending them my prices now, and they're like, whoa, what? And that's because I should have been charging those, not to that extent, because obviously as you gain experience, then that's going to increase how much your worth is. But I definitely undercharged. And in fact, in our studio, to this day, I started our studio, I graduated college in 2006. So probably 2008, maybe 2009, and my prices have not changed. And that's for a couple of reasons, depending on, like where our location is. And then as we started talking about it, I also don't think that it's fair for clients that have been with us for a long time to all of a sudden have to have an increase. They should be grandfathered into the previous prices. There's a lot of things about that. But if I could tell a younger trainer, or go back and tell myself, and I would say, know your worth and don't be afraid to increase prices as you gain experience, as you become a better trainer, as you continue to offer more and more. So yeah, definitely one of the mistakes I made. Second mistake that I made was thinking that everybody wanted to train like me. I have always been into high intensity training, and when I was first getting started, I expected that's what everybody wanted. And it took me a while to realize that some people just want to move their bodies, and they want to be able to increase their range of motion. They want to decrease their joint pain. They don't want to go for the Olympic medal in fitness, right? And that took a lot of practice, because people didn't often realize that either. They were just going with what I was telling them to do. So with time and experience, I was able to see, like, okay, this person does not need to be pushed to the level that I am wanting to push them. They need to increase their hip mobility. They need to make sure that they're working out so that their back doesn't go out, all that kind of fun stuff. But that's something that took time. I figured that if somebody was coming to train with me, that they wanted to train like me, and that is not always the case. Another mistake that I think that I suffered, and again, this is me trying to think back to 15 years ago, because I've definitely learned and have changed in a lot of ways, but pushing my goals onto my clients. And this kind of goes on to what we were just talking about, but I would have all these inspiration or aspirations for my clients when, again, at the end of the day, they just wanted to come in after work or come in before work and get a workout done. Again, they weren't trying to go win a medal, win a competition, train for a race. They just wanted to be healthy and be fit. And I would be like, hey, you know what you'd be great at? Let's do XYZ. And they'd be like, okay, because I'm their trainer and I'm doing that for them. So you have to make sure to basically have empathy. I think that could be my number one tip as any service-based business, is to understand where your client is coming from, try to walk in their shoes, and then design a program based on that, not what you want and not what you want to see them do. Does that make sense? And then my last one that I was thinking about is getting frustrated about excuses. You know, when people cancel on you or they don't work very hard. When I was younger, my patience was very low. I mean, my patience still isn't great. But if people canceled on them, I would think or cancel on me, I would think they're not dedicated. They don't really want it. When the fact of the matter is, sometimes you could want something so bad, but depending on what your season of life is, it's just not possible. So you do have to give people tough love when they need it, but at the same time, understand where they're coming from in that point, and maybe they are doing the very best that they can. And sometimes their best is a little bit different from what you establish or you define their best to be, and you just have to go with it. And sometimes the results, if those people that do make excuses, they're not going to get the results that they want, and that's just a fact. And you do have to give that tough love sometimes and be like, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how compliant were you to our training plan over the past month, right? You just have to give them that tough love and be like, okay, now let's moving forward. Let's try to up that so that we have a more successful month. But sometimes you just have to say, you know what, this past month really did suck. You did your best, and that's what it is. So again, I think it comes down to empathy is the number one thing. And I think empathy just comes from wisdom, comes from time and age and learning about yourself and learning about other people. So my number one mistake that I made as a young trainer was my lack of empathy. I think it could all be summed up in that one single word. And I would love to know, in whatever profession you are, what is one thing that you, or one word that defines the mistakes that you made younger? Because we're not perfect, right? Like all of us, and no matter the profession we are, from stay-at-home moms to a brain surgeon, when we first started, we had a lot of things to learn to get us to where we are now, just like we'll continue to have a lot of lessons to learn to be able to continue to grow in our craft. And that is what I'm always trying to do, for sure. So those are my mistakes. Hopefully you guys are liking this. Next up, vacay. Will I be working out during my vacation? And the answer is kind of funny, but yes, I will be working out. So I leave for vacation. I try to do some sort of movement on most vacations I get. I definitely try to keep my steps up just to move my body. As far as structured workouts, before I had Fit Women's Weekly Live, I would not say that I focused so much on getting a workout in. And if you are one of those people like me that work out on a regular basis, then maybe it's time for some time off. I do recommend people take a couple of days off from a training program or take a deload week where maybe you're working out, just not as heavy, every 8 to 12 weeks, depending on how you're feeling as well. And I used to do that. But now, because I have Fit Women's Weekly Live, I could take the time off from doing the workouts, but I enjoy it. We're in the middle of a challenge right now. Well, not in the middle. We literally just started today. So I would feel really bad to take time off next week and not have those workouts going up. So me personally, I will be working out. I will be focusing more on body weight. So it will be a little bit of a deload process. The hotel that we're staying at does have a fantastic gym though. So I might try to sneak in and just kind of use it because I don't know, to me, because this is what I love, going and trying out and working out in different gyms is kind of the equivalent of going and doing taste testings at different coffee shops. So I will probably still squeeze in. I'll probably take my mom into the gym a couple of days just to show her how to do a couple of exercises and help her going. So yes, we will be working out. It will be a little bit lighter in intensity, but it will get done. But when we used to go visit like Dan's parents and stuff, we would always take that week off from the gym. We would still focus on getting walks in, or Dan and I would go on a bike ride or a jog just about every day, just again, because that's what we like to do. But we didn't do any actual scheduled training, and I definitely recommend that for most people. I do it because this is my job. But again, if you've been working out consistently for weeks at a time, if not months at a time, it's time to take a week or so, or even just a couple of days extra rest to let your body recover, relax, and then get into another heavy load session. Next question. Oh, let's talk about assessment workouts. So like I mentioned, today started our Summer Shred training program, which I am so excited about. And today we had to do our assessment workout. And I've talked about assessment workouts before, but I feel like sometimes it's really important to go around and come back to certain topics because we have new podcast listeners, or if you're watching this on YouTube for the first time. So these important topics when it comes to training need to come up more often. I am a big fan of assessment workouts. So what is an assessment workout? It is a workout that you do at the beginning of a training period, in the middle of it if you can, and then again at the end. And it's a way to gauge if the program that you're following is working, or if you are pushing yourself to the level that you are supposed to be pushing yourself. Because even if you have a fantastic training program, if you're not following it to the level of intensity that you're supposed to, you're not going to get the gains out of it that you're expecting, right? You can do the same workout over and over and over again, but if you're not progressively overloading your system, you're just going to stay right there where you are. So by doing an assessment workout, which is the same workout with the same weights, you get to say or see, holy crap, this is working. Look, I was able to do 5 more rounds or 3 more rounds. And assessment workouts can look different for everybody depending on what your style of training is. Because we do strength training and Metcon style of workouts in Fit Women's Weekly Live, that's the style of assessment workout that we're doing. Our assessment workout today includes 3 6-minute AMRAP challenges with varying different weights, varying different levels of expertise, I guess you could say. Like I've had to offer modifications for a lot of the moves, and then it also has 3 4-minute chunks as well. So overall it's 30 minutes of exercise with some rest tossed in there. But yeah, it was good. I will share the first part so that if you want to test out a little assessment workout, you can. It is 6 minutes on the timer, and it is all starting on your weaker side with 1 single weight, dumbbell or kettlebell. And you're going to do 8 squat to press, aka squat thrusters, and then 8 push presses, still on the same arm, and then 8 overhead prisoner squats, trying to maintain that overhead position from start to finish for the 8 reps. And then you would do the other side, your stronger side, and go back and forth for how many rounds you can get in the 6-minute time limit. And y'all, that thing freaking, oh, it hurt. The first time I tested it out, I did it with a 35-pound dumbbell, and that was good. And then when I did it this morning, I did it with a 26, and again, it was still a burner. I got through 4 rounds, so if you're interested, give that a go. And for the prisoner squats, if that's a move that's a little bit too advanced for you, you could do 4 lunges instead, or you can still do the prisoner squats, but instead of doing them overhead, just do them in rack position. Just a great different alternative. So again, 6 minutes on the timer, all on one side, 8 squat thrusters, 8 push presses, and 8 overhead prisoner squats. And then you switch to do the other side. And you go back and forth for 6 minutes. How many rounds are you going to get in? So yeah, big fan of assessment workouts. Just like I'm a big fan of taking progress pictures, just like I'm a big fan of tracking your workouts. So those of you guys that are watching the video version of this, I write down every single workout that I do along with notes and what weight that I use so that I can see, because it actually came in handy earlier, it was last week. I was doing something with bench press, and I was like, I just feel like I've been stuck in the same place with bench press for years now. But I had one of my old training books, so I went back and looked at it, and I'm actually lifting 15 pounds heavier than I was 2 years ago for that particular rep set range. So I was like, I thought that I was staying stagnant, but in fact I have made gains. So that's why it's so important to do assessment workouts and to track your workouts so that you see the progress that you make. And in the Fit Women's Weekly Live app that is coming, I promise, our goal is to actually have it out by August. We'll be able to track all that stuff with trend lines and everything so that you can see your progress. So I'm really excited to be able to talk about that pretty soon. And then last but not least, let's talk about social media, especially in the realm of fitness. I know that over the years, social media has kicked my butt. I found social media, obviously, in my late teens, early 20s. I was the first. Dan was talking to his coworkers, and they were talking about how they first got Facebook when they were in like middle school or something like that, because they're younger than us. And Dan was like, oh, yeah, well, I was one of the first groups to join in. And I was like, no, Dan, you were the first group. So I started Facebook when Facebook was allowed to be just college kids. I was a sophomore in college. It opened up and thought that it was pretty cool. And I've been on since then. So saying that because I haven't even had to deal with it all of my life, yet I can still see the consequences that so many women do have to deal with when it comes to body issues, or the people that show their lives as being so freaking amazing. And that is something that I never, ever want to do to you guys. I have compared myself to fitness influencers for the past 15 years to where I almost quit, because I would look at Dan and go, I'm ugly. I'm not strong enough. I'm not lean enough. I'm not fit enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not enough. And it brings you down by playing the comparison game, right? And I made the promise then that I would never be anybody more than who I am, that I would share the good and the bad, and I don't edit my pictures. And if there's cellulite in an image, then there's cellulite in an image, right? I did have to edit out a little bit because I had a nip slip last week. I did edit that, but come on. That was for my own comfort. But I don't edit out stretch marks. I don't edit out pimples. I mean, you can see a pimple right here on my face. I just want to be real, and I never want anyone to think that they can't be like me. I work very, very hard for the strength that I have, for the body that I have, and to me, I have a real woman's body that is obtainable, right? I drink wine, I eat sweets, I love peanut butter out of the jar, and I refuse to give those things up in order to obtain what social media tells me I should look like being in the position that I am. So that's my take on that. My niece actually just got her first phone. She's 11. And while I am so excited for her and I love getting text messages, it breaks my heart to think about her as a young woman. Like, it brings me to tears thinking about what she's going to be put into. And I hope so much that the young ladies in our lives, where like my nieces and the people in your life, can maintain a confident stance in how they feel about themselves, because having complete strangers judge you, it's not worth it. And you judging complete strangers is so far off. I'm sharing this because I had a friend that I've met through social media, through Instagram. She was a podcast listener. We've talked several times, and she seems like just the most amazing person. And she knows who this is when she listens to this podcast. But she sent me the nicest message this past weekend telling me how inspired she is by me and how she's jealous of my life because I seem so carefree and so relaxed. And instead of feeling happy or like, wow, that's so cool that I've touched this person, to me, I actually started to well up. Well, first off, you guys know I'm a super emotional person, but I feel like I have done a bad job of showing the true self that I am, because the truth of the matter is that I don't wish my life on anybody. Not that I have a terrible life, but my life is just as hard as everybody else's. And I've kept it no secret that the past several years have been incredibly hard on my husband and I. And I would be lying if I didn't say I have some sort of breakdown every week. I am an emotional person. I cry every week. We have had to make so many sacrifices to go after the goals that we want to go after. And that goal includes creating a business for women to feel confident, strong, healthy, and inspire all women of all ages and sizes that they can be those things. And in order to achieve those goals, I've given up a lot. I've given up spending time with my family. I've given up creating a family. I don't really talk about that very much here because that is something extremely personal, and I'm still not quite sure where I am on that, but that is something that we have sacrificed. And I don't know how I will feel about that in a month, a year, and 10 years on my deathbed. But we've had to make also sacrifices in like where we live and what we do. My husband just had to go back and get a job. And I don't hide those things, right? So if you guys ever see me living this glamorous life, just know I'm struggling just like everybody else. We're just trying to be the best humans that we can. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is being supportive towards one another, to fight for what it is that you truly want and go after it for yourself, not for anybody else. Don't try to live somebody else's dreams. Always live your own dreams. That's what I'm doing. That's what I continue to do every single effing day of my life. That is why my husband went back to a 9-to-5 job, so that we could continue to fight for what it is that we want to establish. And so by you listening to this podcast, you make that possible. You are supporting us. So thank you. Thank you. Now, if you really want to support us, because this is free content, it's not really helping support by paying our bills, it's just supporting us by being part of our community, you can most absolutely go to fitwomensweekly.com, try out Fit Women's Weekly Live for a total 2 weeks for free. Absolutely nothing. You don't have to put in a credit card or anything. And then you can also support us by going to athleticgreens.com, trying out. They are one of our sponsors. Use the code FWW. You can try Athletic Greens out. They're going to give you a free package of their travel satchels as well as a year's supply of their vitamin D. And then last but not least, you can support me by making sure that you subscribe to the podcast, hang out with me, and just talk. Just be part of the community. Go to Instagram, Kendall Boyle Fitness. Drop me what your thoughts are on the podcast episodes, or if you ever have questions that you want me to talk about here. I love talking to you guys. This is not just me talking to my computer, even though that's absolutely what it seems like today. This is about us connecting on a much deeper level, I hope. And so that comes through communication, which means it has to come from two sides. So never be afraid to slide into my DMs and chat. Now, I know that got really kind of sappy, but I thought that it was really, really important. And we're going to end with, how do you take care of your hands? Again, if you're watching this on video, my hands are terrible, and I am not a person that can help answer that question. My hands are calloused. They have blood blisters from doing kettlebells, but most people I have talked to do a really good job of pumicing their kettlebells down. I actually use nail trimmers to cut my calluses off, and then I'll use like a pummel stone to try to get down as much as possible. But because I lift weights every day, it doesn't get much better. It just, as soon as it gets better, it just gets worse. So I really can't say anything. I don't get my nails manicured or my hands manicured because I'm so embarrassed by how my hands look. But yeah, if you know what to do, let me know. I am always open. All right, you guys, it has been real. That was a really good podcast, and just getting off some things that I wanted to get off. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know. Subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and for real, either comment if you're watching this on video, or slide into my DMs. Ask any questions. Give me any of your thoughts. I love you guys. I will be back on Friday with your Friday Fit Quickie. If you have a question you want to hear answered in that episode, you know how to get in touch with me. Bye, guys.